Well, good morning once again. We're coming to you live from Cape Town, South Africa. Myself, Nick Charlie Key, and my co-host Sean Notcutt, talking to you all about things Chelsea Football Club. But now we're on a break from club football, and we have already put out one World Cup special, and we are on to version 2.0. We did a sort of mid-round or round one sort of review of the World Cup. We've kind of had a lot of movement since then in the last week and a bit. And we're going to be talking about some of the Chelsea players at the World Cup, how they've been performing, talking about some potential signings that have happened or are imminently going to be happening, and some players from the World Cup who have been some big standouts, and maybe somebody that we should be looking into as a club, specifically with some of the midfielders that are performing quite well at the World Cup, and could be good options for us if other targets tend to fall through or get snapped up by other clubs. But we are here back again talking Chelsea at the World Cup. Sean, how have you been enjoying the World Cup so far?
Yeah, it's been good. It's probably been the most surprising World Cup I think we've ever experienced. Seeing tons of upsets, which I absolutely love. Love every second of it. And hey, the Dutch are going strong. So I feel like they are the dark horse. Maybe Morocco could be considered the other dark horse, but I'm pretty happy. It's been a great World Cup.
Yeah, I think the Netherlands have a lot more depth than Morocco. As much as I'd like to see an African team perform well, I don't think they've quite got what it takes. I think, I think the Netherlands are going to be an interesting prospect. Who are the Netherlands? Who have they drawn for the next round?
Netherlands play. I want to say. Oh my gosh! Hold on.
I know it's France, England,
Argentina. No, it's not Argentina. Wait, I'll tell you right now. It is Argentina. It's Argentina.
It is Argentina.
Netherlands, Argentina. That's a tough one.
That is going to be a tough one. But I think it's a phenomenal clash. I mean, you've got two good teams in form. Do you think this is Argentina's year, man? I don't know if they're going to win it, but I think they've got more momentum. And probably just a better squad at this point. But I will say this: looking at that squad for the Dutch, it feels like this squad, with like one or two players that are going to come up through the ranks in the next 4 years, with the maturity of these players, I think in the next World Cup, dude, I think they're going to be a force to reckon with in the next World Cup. So even if they don't perform for you, you can look forward to it next year. I mean, next World Cup.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Dutch, hey? Like, it's a tiny little nation, 16 million people, and year after year, since the 70s, you could argue, maybe before that, they produce superstars, like world-class superstars who are just like phenomenal. For such a small little country, they got it going, man. And they're probably one of the most unluckiest teams. They get to all these finals and actually never win it. So I'm praying and hoping one day, the Dutchies will do it.
I think it's interesting. I think it's probably, I wonder how much of, if you look at a lot of these teams' success, like even with France, how much of it is like historically based. If you look at, the French team that won last World Cup had I can't remember how many of it was like actual, not immigrants, but I mean like players from countries that had once been French colonies. Do you know what I mean? And I think the Dutch tend to benefit a lot from that as well. Like a lot of people have sort of family ties to colonial days, as wrong as the colonization obviously was. I think that that tends to play into their hands when you've got such a small sort of group to pick from, as a nationality themselves. So it's all interesting. But I think, like you said, been huge upsets so far. I think this was the first World Cup they said that not a single team in the World Cup has won all three of their group matches.
Games. That's right.
So that is very interesting. So I think that just goes to show you that it's been a World Cup of complete surprises, upsets. I think you've had players who have been expected to do well and who have done well, and players who you've expected to do well who've fallen completely off the map. And so it's been a very interesting World Cup so far. But I think we should start to maybe just have a look at some of the Chelsea players who've been involved at this World Cup, ones who are still in it, ones who are now out. And I think way better to start than last night's game, which was the England-Senegal game. And really watching that Senegal first half before the goals went in, I mean, they were looking hot.
Good.
You can see why they were African champions. They've got a good squad. They play well. They've
Yep.
got good range of passing, good movement. They got some quality players, and and I mean, unfortunately, one of those quality players wasn't Edouard Mendy. So I
Yep.
don't know what your
He's
thoughts
really
are about
not. He's not covering himself in any glory at the moment. Shame. I feel like I was just watching him. He's just so not confident at the moment. There were a few crosses coming from the left
Mm,
many times, and
mm.
I think he ran out a few times to punch it. And it
Yes, I
happened
saw that.
multiple times, but he just completely missed it. Like
Yeah,
completely missed the ball. And I'm like, you're a world-class top goalkeeper. Something as simple as running out. He's not even pressurized. There weren't even players jumping into him and trying to take him out, but he missed it. Like, and that
yeah,
happened a few times. You could just tell the guy's short of confidence, and it's not a good omen for Chelsea. Luckily, Kepa's decent, and he's
yeah.
performing. Well, he was performing well before the
Mm,
break, but
mm.
yeah, unfortunately, Mendy as well as Koulibaly. Shame Koulibaly didn't also have the best game. And I agree with you. Like Senegal were playing really well, like really,
Yeah,
really well. Unfortunately, I think Jude Bellingham, like, just it was like a coming of age match for him. I think everybody saw that. Um,
yeah,
and Mount is definitely not getting back into that team because Foden and Bellingham like seriously dominated that game, as well as Rice. And again, I mean, you got to just put your hands up for Rice. People wouldn't say, "Oh, Rice was the superstar in that game." But if you watch him closely, he was playing his role to perfection, which allowed Bellingham, Foden to just completely rule that midfield. It
yeah.
was yeah, it was great to see England we're the better team. They are the better team at the moment. I still don't think they're going to win the World Cup, to be honest. They haven't played a proper team. The France game will be interesting.
Yeah.
I think France will beat them, but yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunate for Senegal.
Honestly, I think it could go either way with England. I think that if you look at
Yeah,
like they also what they're doing a lot more than other teams is like other teams are winning 1-0s or 2-1s. They are like consistently. Besides, I think the
banging in
USA game
goals.
they drew. I mean, they're banging in the goals. I mean, they're
Yeah.
up to is it I think 12 goals for the competition already.
Mm.
I mean, to be averaging what 4 goals a game. Well, I think it's 4 goals a game. I stand to be corrected, but I mean that is an
Yeah.
unreal return,
Yeah.
for the team. And so I mean, maybe you're right. They haven't been incredibly pressured in defense. And as we saw last night, Maguire, as much as people have been ragging on him, he actually has been having quite a good World Cup. But last night was making fundamental errors. This is the stuff
Oh
that
man.
gives people ammunition.
Yeah.
When he's passing the ball
Yeah.
directly to a Senegalese player, like multiple times,
Yes.
and you start to
Yeah.
go, okay, this is you, dude. I mean, you've done so well. Don't throw it all away now. And I've got no
Totally.
love for him. I don't really care about Maguire in any
No, me
sense,
neither.
word, but
Yeah.
I don't. You still don't like to see a guy get tuned unnecessarily. So we'll see. But I think, dude, I think England could be. I think they. I mean, it's hard to say England's a dark horse, right? Because they're always at the
Yeah.
forefront of world football, and they did so well in the last like Euros and getting to the final and everything. So,
Yeah.
who knows? But I do think they stand a good chance. But it's also like I think so much of it is situation dependent, game dependent. Like it's knockout round football. It's not. Yeah, anything can happen. So and as we've seen in this World Cup, anything can happen and will happen. So who knows? But I think you're right.
Yeah.
We're talking about the players coming of age, talking about Bellingham. I think this has been him announcing himself to the world. I think everyone knew he was a good player. I just don't think anyone
Yeah.
knew like quite how good he actually was.
Yeah, bro, that's the thing. I'm like Birmingham knew, and
Birmingham
I don't
knew.
know if it's just because they knew this guy was really good and they just knew it, or if they were just taking their chance and marketing him as the next wonder kid with like Starboy, which I feel like so
Mm,
many clubs are
yeah,
doing. But they knew, man, this
yeah,
guy's got serious talent. And again, I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen young players rise, I feel like a little bit too early, and then they fail. I think of Mario Götze, like
yeah,
he did so well in the World Cup. Everybody was going crazy for him. Renato Sanchez, another guy. Sanchez, that
Yeah,
Portuguese
Bernardo
guy.
Sanchez, yeah.
Yeah, like you hear all these players and they're just being built up as the next star boy. But when you look at Jude, you can see, man, there is something there. And what irritates me so much is how Jordan Henderson celebrated with him, and Liverpool Twitter have gone off the rails because apparently he's a Liverpool supporter. He grew up supporting Liverpool and has a love for them. And oh gosh, please do not go to Liverpool, Jude Bellingham. Do not go there. That'd be the worst. Go to Real Madrid rather, please.
Like, if you're not going to come to Chelsea, don't go. Don't. Yeah. Like, I'd rather you go like not anywhere else in our I say our league, the Premier League. But no, it is interesting. I think you see lots of players who support certain clubs don't end up at those clubs, and you see certain players who supported clubs it doesn't work out. Look at Lukaku, for instance. I mean, he was a boyhood Chelsea fan. He had all those videos of like, I'm going to be the next Drogba. But it doesn't work out for them, So you never quite know what's going to happen. And I think you're right. Like, it's interesting because you talk about a Jude Bellingham coming through the ranks, and he got sold to Borussia Dortmund at quite a young age, at an age where he probably hadn't really hit full potential. And I still don't think he's probably even hit his full potential, which is actually quite scary. And I mean, people are already saying he's like got the best elements of a Lampard and a Gerrard combined in one. I'm like, okay, well, that is yet to be seen.
We'll be the judge of that,
Yeah, and I mean, fair enough. You can say it now and say, look, potentially, but don't say he has. I'd say hedge your bets and say he potentially could be, because I mean that's quite a claim to make on firstly pressure to put on a kid, but also two of like the world's probably best ever midfielders, to say this kid is going to be two of them combined. Like, geez, okay. I mean, well, we'll see. I mean, you've got to be like Messi level to be two of the world's best combined in one. So we'll see about that, But I think with the Bellingham thing, and going like, oh, this kid's like unbelievable. We've had players come through our ranks at the same age who were touted as being like world class. I mean, I think more than anything, if you look at, or if you listen to a lot of guys speak about the Chelsea Youth Academy, they were saying the same, if not more, about Callum Hudson-Odoi specifically.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And going, we have never seen anything like this kid at this level. He's the next big thing. And then you just see the guy doesn't live up to it. I mean, even Ruben Loftus-Cheek to a certain degree, not even to the same level as a Callum Hudson-Odoi, but I mean, he also came through as touted as being like one of the best players of his generation. Yeah, and I don't know if it's just Chelsea, we break these players or not, but
I don't know, bro. It's totally Chelsea, brothers. We're a broken club, man. Oh,
it's hard. It's funny because it's hard to say that with like how much we are the most successful English club in the last 2 decades. How do we square that with the fact of also being the club that like just has had so many flops? It's unreal.
Yeah, and how do you have Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mohamed Salah on your books, and you not see the talent? I'm like, oh, geez, don't get me started, man.
I fully blame Mourinho for that. That was
me too. Yeah,
like, he had issues with that. I mean, I think if we'd had any other coach at that time, kept those players, together, because I think Mourinho pushed them out. Imagine what we would look like now. But who knows? Once again, maybe Salah would never have become Salah. Maybe De Bruyne would never have become De Bruyne. Like,
that's true, and that probably is true, and it probably would have happened. And it's because they went out on loan or sold or went into a different country, like philosophy, structure, whatever you want to call it, that they rose to that occasion. So exactly, we can't say if they stayed at Chelsea that would have happened. But I don't know if you saw the recently on Twitter all these reports coming out about Kante. Not wanting to, that he wants to sign for Chelsea, but we're not willing. There's disagreement. But the report saying that we are looking to young midfielders and looking to rebuild our midfield with young players. And I love that. I'm like, as much as I love N'Golo Kante, and we've chatted about this on the show, like he's like, I mean, one of my favorite Chelsea players ever. I thank him every single day for that performance that he put in the Champions League final, which was like world class. You couldn't beat that performance. But he's injured, 40% of the year. Yeah. Like, it's as sad as it is, and like we do need to look at the future. And sorry, I'm just thinking about Todd Bowley and his philosophy and his ideas. It's so attractive because on top of that, you have someone like Endrick, which is, I mean, he's now touted as like probably like the next Neymar, right? Even better. This is what people are saying. And if you look at some of the reports, it seems like we're starting to turn his head towards us. And you never know. It's all reports. I mean, he could go to Barca or Madrid. Who knows? But it's like this young, attractive team that we're building. So these young players are like, hey, yes, I totally want to be a part of that. Count me in. So I'm pretty stoked. I think there's as much as we tune Chelsea and say that we don't know what we're doing and we're broken. It seems like we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it feels like we've got it's like the best of both worlds in the sense of we saw what Ajax achieved with that super young squad, with all of those breakout stars a couple seasons back. But we also have the ability to then hold on to them, because a club like Ajax, even with their history, they still aren't in that top tier of clubs where players come to you to make their career. Ajax still feels like, even, and I mean no disrespect by this, but they still feel like a feeder club to the bigger teams. You know what I mean? So guys will make their name there, and I mean you've seen it happen with a million players, with Frankie De Jong, even with Hakim Ziyech, with Matthijs de Ligt, with Donny van der Beek, you can rattle off a number of players, especially from
you can go back to Suarez and Ibrahimovic. You can go back. Yeah,
they consistently get good players in for a season or two, or for a period of time, and then they move on. It's not the club they players come to stay at. And so I think that we've got the ability to now start building a squad in the mold of a team like that, where you've got young, hungry, super talented players who haven't quite made their name yet, but will make their name at a club like Chelsea, but then stay here and solidify that
for sure
legacy almost. So that's the big hope, I think. And like you say, it's becoming an attractive prospect. And it feels like we are bringing in a lot of guys, and you see this with we've spoken about it before, with signings like with Chukwuemeka, with Cesare Casadei. I don't know if you saw that goal that was going around.
Bro. World class, man.
Just takes the ball from the halfway line, trots forward about 10 yards, and then just bangs it in from about 40 yards out. I mean,
so good.
You never know. I mean, that's just one occasion, but the guy looks like he's got it. So that'll be interesting to see. You've got
that Russian kid as well. Seems like we could be getting him.
Yeah, so that'll also be an interesting one. But it's also, that one feels like who knows what's going to happen there with all the legalities and stuff. So
the politics.
That will be very interesting. But I think if you're getting in younger players, we've spoken about it. If you're bringing in your Declan Rice to take over that Kante position potentially, as a sort of holding midfielder, and then you've got your Loftus Cheeks, you've got your Gallaghers, your Mounts, your Reece James, your Chilwells. These guys are all like early to mid 20s. Still got about another decade in them. I feel like we could put together another one of those squads that had when we had your Terry, Drogba, Lampard, Czech,
totally.
For 10 years. We haven't had a core that has just that you've built other players around for so long. We just feel like there's just constant churn in almost every position. So, and Fofana, let's not forget Fofana. When he comes back from injury, he's also young, and he could be the spine of that defense for years to come.
And Nkunku, we've got Nkunku now. Well, he's 25, but still.
A good one to chat about. I mean, Nkunku's a good one to chat about. I said it to you on text, and I said it to you before we actually did the show. And I mean, I'm genuinely quite surprised that everyone is so excited. I mean, I'm obviously excited because we saw what the kid can do.
Yeah.
But no one seems to be going like, he's signing. Is he signing? Yes, we've got the deal done with the club. We've got the deal done with the player. You texted me going like Fabrizio has said, like, you basically got to here we go. Like, amazing. And I just don't see anybody going like, yeah, the dude's still currently rehabbing an ACL. Like,
Yeah.
that is not a minor injury for any player. It's specifically not a minor injury for a guy who relies so much on pace. So
Mm-hmm.
you got players like I was thinking about it yesterday actually, and you've got players that have come back from ACLs and it hasn't affected their game. But those are players like Azpilicueta, like who had a bad
Yeah.
ACL in his early career, but his
Yeah.
game was defense. His game isn't like
Totally.
speed, like you've got
Yeah.
these guys who, I mean, we saw what it wasn't an ACL necessarily, but you saw what a severe injury can do to a player like a Callum Hudson-Odoi who was just hitting his stride.
Yep.
There goes his Achilles tendon. What? It's 3 years later. The kid's now out on loan. Like, who knows if he's ever going to get it back? And he's spoken specifically about like he's not the same player he was.
Yeah.
So we just shelled out all this cash for this guy who we actually don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back from this ACL. Like, and these once you do a knee injury like this, does it have recurring things? Now, is he going to be the next guy who every 4 or 5 games, as he's getting up steam, now he's back in the
totally
the physical table? Like, I just can't handle that again. We've had too many players who have so much promise getting like hobbled by injury, and I think the only player we've currently had recently who has kind of pushed through all of that, surprisingly, was Eden Hazard, who then went to Madrid and basically had exactly that same problem. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, geez, as you're talking about, it's it's scary how many players Chelsea have done this with. Like, and I guess it's not their fault. Like, I think of Pulisic and Ziyech and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. You never know when players are going to get injured. Hudson-Odoi, even Kante. Like, you don't know, but this is different. We know that he's got a major injury. And we're still signing him. Same with Fofana. Like, we knew he had a major injury, and it's a risk. And it is a risk that you take. It's so hard to know if it'll pay off. And I agree with you. Nobody's talking about it. It's all like, yay, rah, rah. We've signed Nkunku. Look at all these amazing YouTube compilations of what he can do. But the reality is he's not going to be able to do that straight away. It's going to take time. And geez, we've seen what happens if a player who's hyped up comes into the league and doesn't perform, even for like 3 games in a row. Like, he's ripped to shreds, and it affects his mentality too. Like, it's not just Twitter and the pundits. Like, it definitely affects the player and the way that he plays. So I really hope that they just are really wise with Nkunku and take it easy, and like that they really just like ease him into it, do it properly, because I definitely want to see the best out of Nkunku. I mean, I've seen the YouTube compilations and the dude's great, and I've watched him play a few times. Like, phenomenal signing, like incredible signing, but just please, Chelsea, don't mess this up. Please, just I hope the medical team, everything just does it the right way and we don't rush him into it. But at the same time, like, what are we signing him for? What's his best position? He's number 10, right? He's not an out-and-out striker, from my understanding. Or is he a false?
I don't know, man. Like, I think, my understanding was he was an out-and-out striker. And I'd be surprised if he wasn't, because then are we just buying him to compete with Havertz? Are we buying him to compete with Mount? Because Mount is showing that you saw Mount in the first England game. You play him as a 10. And I mean, the kid will boss the game. Like, so it's if he's not going to be played as regardless of his actual number, if he's not going to be played as a number 9, I don't know why we would. I mean, we are also on the verge of seemingly getting rid of Pulisic and probably Ziyech. So we are freeing up squad slots, so maybe he'll play. Maybe we'll play Havertz. And Havertz has even come out recently and said he can play anywhere across the front. I don't know if that's 100% true in terms of getting the best out of him. But you could then potentially move Havertz out wide or something. So there's a lot of options for it. But I'm just interested to see how he does. And I think Chelsea have always thrived when we've had a striker who's got like a bit of dog in him. And I just don't know if
100%.
Has,
no, he's not that.
He's not that. He strikes me as like I'm trying to think like who to compare him to, who we've had recently. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say Morata because Morata felt like too fragile.
Like Werner.
Yeah. Werner's a great one. Like a very
Yeah.
similar profile. It feels like pacey,
Yep.
agile,
Yeah.
but doesn't have that like fight in them, like a
Yes.
Drogba did, or Costa did, or
Totally.
like
Oh yeah.
and or even I'd even say like what was his name again? I've gone blank on his name. Hernan Crespo. Like Crespo
Yes.
wasn't like
Totally.
super dog in him, but he had like something in him. He had like a fire in him. And
Yeah.
every time he brought in a striker who is like a good striker but is like too nice of a person,
Yeah.
Torres failed,
Didn't work.
Shevchenko failed,
Didn't work.
Morata
Yeah.
failed, like
Yeah.
Werner to a degree, and I love Werner. I was sad to see him go,
Yeah. Me
honestly.
too.
I love Werner, but he's just, I don't know. I don't know if
Too
it's like
nice.
if it's a thing with the league or if it's a thing with our club specifically. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how he
I
does.
think.
But I mean, sorry.
No, I think Chelsea seriously lacks some like proper traditional wingers at the same time. Like I feel like a lot of the time we're playing these forwards and pushing them wide. When then, like I think of Willian, for example, like as much as Willian grinding my gears, like the most inconsistent performer, Pedro was the same thing. Um, like this sounds terrible, but I actually kind of miss them, like just
It's a love
the
hate,
fact that
man. I love Pedro.
they performed a role which was
Yeah,
winger, and they
yeah,
were able to beat the fullback and cross the ball in. And
yeah.
like you can forget like William's terrible crossing from time to time. And like that traditional winger role is something like we haven't had for a long time. Besides Willian and Pedro, I'm trying to rack my brain before that. You
Well,
go back
Hazard,
like
only other one we really
Hazard,
have.
yeah, Hazard. But Hazard at the same time, you could put him like
Put
anywhere.
him
But
anyway.
yes, he filled that role. I'm going back to like Iron Robin is like
Yeah, and Damien
I'm
Duff,
trying to
bro.
rack my brain. And Duff, yeah, like those. But I'm like traditional wingers who just have pace, run the wing, and cross the ball in. I'm a bit over like putting Havertz in that position, throwing Mount in that position. As much as they can do it, I'm like it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't suit their profile.
I mean, the irony is like we do have two out-and-out wingers in Ziyech and Pulisic, right? Like those guys are
Yeah, it's
wingers,
true.
but
Yeah,
they just don't seem to. They just don't seem to do the job. I mean, to be fair, like a lot of the times Pulisic has been played out of position.
yeah,
He's
that's the thing, bro.
either been played as a false nine or he's been played as a wing
Yeah,
back. Like literally every position but the one that he's supposed to be good at. And you watch him in the World Cup when he's actually played in the right role for his team. And I wouldn't say he like shot the lights out by any means, but you can see the dude's a lot more of an attacking threat when he's actually played in the right position. So
yeah.
I think we've got to take some of the blame as a club and say maybe we haven't utilized our guys 100% correctly. But I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I mean, think back. When's the last time we've shifted to a back four? Okay, it was with Frank Lampard, right? And that was only a season and a bit. But I feel like we've been a back five club since Conte, the famous Arsenal game at halftime. I mean, it's been back five. So our wing backs have basically, in a way, fulfilled that role. So I don't know what happens to your wingers then. I mean, I'm not
They're kind of
a football manager.
They're almost like inverted,
Exactly.
like wingers who actually cut inside to shoot on their strong foot. It's like it's a very strange combination. I mean,
It's strange, but you're relying on your wing backs then to run the width of the pitch and put in those crosses.
And I mean, when you've got
James is phenomenal, I guess.
Like when you've got James who's fit, like fantastic. You don't need a winger because that oak is everything and more. So
yeah,
it's crazy. So I don't know, but I think it's going to be interesting. January, I think it's going to be interesting. End of year break to see how we actually build the squad. Because I mean, we've said it before. I mean, we both back Bowley to know what he's doing. It seems like he's got his head on straight. He's got that recruitment. It seems like they've pushed hard to get that recruitment team. In maybe even specifically for January. So they've already started going like, we need to be scouting and recruiting and getting the right people in. And maybe it's going to be bringing in players. This is the beauty of it: bringing in players who are not the big names and who are like fit that Moneyball profile of like, what are the actual like characteristics we need in a player, let's get that player rather than this player who has a name but doesn't quite shoehorn properly into the
For sure.
role. But we'll see. And I think it's interesting. One of the things I actually wanted to bring up with you, I mentioned, is, I mean, have there been any players that have maybe stood out to you at the World Cup? A name maybe you'd never heard before, or maybe a name you had heard before, but someone that you had never really thought about in terms of maybe being Chelsea quality, or someone that you think is just exciting, has come onto the scene and you're going, wow, this guy could actually do a job for us. If you need time to think, I'm happy to start.
No, just off the top of my head, I mean, you kind of knew who they were, but I'd say Enzo Fernandez would be number one for me. And then, I mean, I love the Dutch breed. Like, you know me, like Cody Gakpo is just phenomenal. I mean, I think he's on his way to United. Even though, do you see what Virgil van Dijk said publicly? It was great.
Right.
He's like, he said, Cody, basically he was like, Cody Gakpo is like, probably, he's like star boy, like phenomenal quality, like unlimited potential. And he basically said, do you really want to go to a club like United? Basically, he's like, and I mean, I love the Dutch. They talk straight, and that's straight talk. I'm like, they're not where they were. He was basically saying, why don't you think of like a Real Madrid instead? Which good on him, because I agree.
Madrid's not the answer for everybody. I don't understand.
No, 100%. I agree.
Where do you want to go? Oh, Madrid. Like, shut up, man.
Where would you fit in there? Yeah.
Madrid irritates me, man.
Oh, they do.
They're just like,
Other than that,
actually, Barcelona irritates me more, especially after the summer we had.
It's
Although
true.
seemingly we have actually come out on top because a lot of those signings flopped.
It's true.
So
it's great.
Who knows? But
it is great.
No, I think Gakpo is great, and I think you're right. I mean, like, after that, I mean, I don't know if you've watched that whole Ronaldo interview. Did you manage to see it?
I didn't watch all of it. No, I just saw a little bits here and there.
No, so I watched the whole thing, both of the episodes, and it's like, it's quite interesting to hear what, I mean, he's actually really, like, he's really taken some big shots at the club. And I think, you know, if you're another player and you don't know coming into United, all you're going on is the name, right? But then you hear about a player who's come in, who loves the club, who's basically going, when I was here 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and I come back and everything's the same, you're going, well, is this actually a club that's progressing? Is this a club that's actually moving forward? Is it a, you know, and it's not, I mean, they're not the first, he's not the first one. I mean, you remember when Alexis Sanchez moved from Arsenal to United, and famously said that,
like, get me out of here.
Is it too late to rip up my contract? I mean, there's something is going on at that club where big players are moving there and going.
Ibrahimovic said some stuff.
Ibrahimovic, same thing as well. He said the club is not run well. It's not a big club, you know. I mean, there's big players that are going there and going, something is stuck. And I think it's Ferguson, dude. I think they had their glory years.
100%.
And they're stuck in this thing of going, like, how do we recapture Ferguson? But you're going, like, guys, the world's moving on.
You can't.
And has moved on. And there's clubs that are going leaps and bounds ahead of you. I think an interview like Ronaldo's might make a few players think twice about going to United just for the name. So who knows what could happen with Gakpo? You know, for all intents and purposes, he might actually now be going like, "Ooh, jeepers, maybe that's not the place I want to go."
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I
think it's also great. Sorry, I just also think it's great how all my United fans have changed their tune. All my friends who are United fans have changed their tune. Like, they were so pro Ronaldo. Like, the club legend returns. He's going to restore us to Champions League glory. And then you send them all the memes, and they're like, he was more of a Madrid legend anyway. I'm like, oh my gosh, just shut up.
It's such a joke, really.
It is.
Watching all these guys just basically now going like, no, get out the club if you don't.
And you, who's players for you that stuck out?
Well, I'll get onto that now, but just on that Ronaldo thing, I mean, there's still this lingering talk of him potentially coming to Chelsea. I mean, even though he's potentially, there seems like,
I know,
more so he's getting big offers from Saudi, which seems like I think he might actually end up taking that, which would still be a surprise to me, because I feel like he still has something to offer at the top level. I mean, if they said to you, just for the next 6 months, January to June, would you take Ronaldo?
Yes.
Really?
It's Ronaldo. I
Oh,
would if it was 6 months and all our players could learn from him. I think I as egotistical as he is, um, I think there's just something to learn from a player at that level. I'm like, you can you when it comes to Ronaldo and Messi, like they're on another level. You cannot treat
mm,
them as like just an average normal player. They are, I mean, we've seen it. I'm so glad I grew up when I did grow up that I got to see both of them play. I'm like,
mm.
he's Ronaldo. If it was 6 months, yes, sorry. If it was a year to 2 year contract, I would say no. Hey, little doggy, what's your dog's
Hey,
name?
Dougie. So he's a French bulldog, and we called him Napoleon because the Frenchest name I could think of. So
That's great.
yeah,
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I'd take him for 6 months, but that's just me. It's Ronaldo. I'd take him.
yeah, I think I'd be inclined to say 6 months as well. I wouldn't want to take him after the summer. I feel like
No.
we've got too
Yeah.
much to bring in and to rebuild. I
Yes.
wouldn't want to
I
rebuild
agree.
while he's there, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Anyway, getting back to the players that I think have stood out. I think I don't want to be too obvious and get on the hype train, but I was very impressed with Ghana's Mohamed Kudus. Um,
Kudos.
and he's once again current Ajax player, so who knows where he's going to end
Yeah.
up. But I think that he showed like he's got a real grit about him.
Yeah.
He's like strong in the tackle. He's got a
Yep.
good ability to
Run.
break the lines. He's got a good
Yeah.
pass on him, which I think is pretty solid. I would also say who actually, I mean, so he's more known. I think so. I think he plays for Leicester. Is Melio Sarr. But what stood out to me
Yes.
last night was just watching him skin Kyle Walker, who
Oh yeah.
has been, historically, supposedly one of the fastest defenders in the world.
Yes.
And this guy made him look like he was, like late stage Ivanovic,
Yeah.
Like, it was
Oh,
very
dude, you're giving me trauma. Oh.
I mean, so if you're talking about out and out wingers, I mean, he wouldn't be a bad option. The
Yes.
he's got
Totally.
pace, he's got a bit of skill, and I know he's been talked about in the past as a rising star, but who knows? He might be a good option. And then, actually, funnily enough, I didn't even register this. So this one's probably the most likely that we would actually sign this guy, only because of what we've been doing in the last 6 months. But
Yeah.
I had a good look at in the Argentina team. I've been seeing how well McAllister's been playing. Alexis
Oh
McAllister,
yes.
which is obviously the greatest name for a South American
Thought he
player.
was Scottish. Yeah.
And do you know do you know who he plays for? I can't believe I didn't know this.
He's Brighton.
Yeah, he's Brighton. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Exactly. I did not know that.
This is so great. Just
Yeah.
another Brighton name to add to the list of players who
Totally.
really like trying to steal from them. So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man.
I would
crazy.
take him. He's great.
Yeah, I would. The thing is, I would like probably only not take him because of the Brighton connection. I just don't want to be seen to be like, oh,
Yeah.
Trossard
Yeah,
and McAllister and this guy, and like
Yeah.
at some point we're just going to become Brighton. So who knows?
Yeah. For sure.
But, no, it's interesting. So yeah, I think it's also going to be interesting to see in the next England game what happens with Mount, because like you say, Foden and Bellingham are playing at such a high level. But I mean, for the first game or two, Mount was running the show. So it's interesting.
It's true.
I mean, what do you do? What do you like? I suppose you stick with what's working, but it's sad to see. And I'm glad Gallagher got a few minutes in the first game. So I just don't see how he's going to get any minutes in the rest. Because realistically, he probably would do well in the Henderson role, but now Henderson is like coming to the party. So,
but Henderson's been crap, and he scored a goal which has saved his blushes. Like he's been, he's been terrible. He's been absolutely shocking, and he scored a goal. And now
he's a name, though. That's the thing.
He's terrible. Yeah. I can't stand the guy. Jeez, don't.
No.
Let's move on from Henderson, please. I get so upset with that dude. I can't. I can't.
I say the only other Chelsea player who recently, I think, made a cameo. Obviously, the twilight of his career is obviously old Azpilicueta had a little nice assist for Morata, and I think that they used to. I feel like as people
had a connection, man.
Like, and it seemed like that exact same ball, like from the right, just outside the box, cross into the far post, and then the header back in. I mean, I feel like he had like 5 or 6 of those with Morata in the one season, and now it seems like he did it again for the Spanish national team. But you see Morata banging in goals for fun, but very importantly for Morata, they've all been like first time hit. Like, balls coming in, he's just got to put a head on it or just get a
Just hit
foot
it.
on it. Anytime he
Yeah.
has to make a decision, then he
Can't do
he
it.
just doesn't have the mentality for it. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't think he's as world class as he could be if he just actually got his head
Yeah.
right.
I
Realistically.
agree.
So
He was good at headering the ball and being caught offside. That was it.
dude, I forgot about that.
Literally it.
That guy was
Yeah.
offside 10 times a
All the time.
game.
All the
Jeez,
time.
that was
Oh,
bad, eh?
yeah. Yeah.
But looking
Okay,
forward,
it's gone.
any sort of big games that
Predictions.
you look forward to? Any change to your predictions?
Well,
I'm struggling to remember
let me pull this up.
did you
I
write them
mean,
down?
we said no. I did say Edison. We said that Brazilian keepers would be like Golden Gloves best defense, which is totally still possible. They're doing well.
They've only shipped one goal, eh?
Yeah, one goal. That's it. And
I heard a great stat in that game. They said before that game, even I think it was up until half time. I think when they hadn't even scored it, that no one had even had a shot on target against them.
yes, yeah. No
Which,
one
I
had a
mean,
shot
that
on
is
target. So that was the
mad. I
first
mean,
goal, first
sure.
shot on target. That's incredible. I mean, if you got Thiago Silva in your defense, I'm like, what else can you expect? I mean, the guy's just a beast.
Dude, I don't know if you saw. Sorry, just to interrupt you on that Brazil
Huh?
game. When you're basically looking at, they put out a full starting 11, and you're like, there's not a weak player in the squad. And then you look at the
No,
bench, and like Thiago Silva's on the bench,
it's
Neymar's on the bench,
yeah,
Anthony's on the bench.
they're so
Like
good.
had like 5 or 6 like world class first team starters on the bench, and you look at the first team that's out, and you're still going, there's not a weak person in the squad. Like
No,
it's just
sorry, that was my point. That's why I think like, and you could say the exact same thing about England, like the depth of
mm,
their bench. France, geez, like the thing with France is the first team that they put out is basically their second team because they're so injury stricken,
yeah,
and it's
missing Pogba,
still world
Benzema,
class.
yeah,
Yeah, Kante, Benzema, and then they still have phenomenal players
yeah,
on the bench. But if you look, it's like England, France. You'd say the same thing about Brazil,
maybe
and
Portugal.
that's probably it, and maybe Portugal.
Well, they're probably not to the
Yeah,
same degree.
no, not to the same degree, but that would probably be like the strongest bench. Argentina, no, I wouldn't say Argentina. Netherlands, no. But I'm like, I would say that's always a key when it comes to World Cups because you do have to rotate. You do have
Yeah,
to, like, an injury always comes up. You have to rely on other players to
yeah,
step up. And if you have this world class players to step in, like, you're going to do okay.
yeah.
That's why, like, as much as I love the Dutch, like, sadly, I don't think they're going to do it. They,
Sure.
but who knows? It's the World Cup of surprises.
Mm,
Just going back to a question, we said, well, I said Ronaldo would be top scorer, which who knows? He's got a bit of catching up to do. KDB, I think we both said KDB would be. No, you said Bernardo Silva,
that's a bit
the
on
assist
the
king. KDB, the Belgium's just imploded. It's like
yeah,
what a mess, what an absolute mess they are.
yeah,
Shame, golden generation dead.
yeah.
Geez, when I look at this, I don't know. I think we could get a France Argentina final. Wasn't that the final last year? No, it was France Croatia.
Yeah.
I got a feeling France are going to do it again. I'm changing my mind.
I completely wrote them off because of all the injuries, but I
I
mean,
know, me
watching
too.
them play, I mean, they are formidable. And I mean,
And Mbappe
and
is informed.
how
No,
great Giroud getting
I know, top
the
scorer.
all-time scoring record. Man, I love that guy. He did so well for us when he
He's
was.
great. He's so good. But you look at that team; they're just clicking. And that's the thing with the French. I'm like, they've had Didier Deschamps like for ages
Yeah,
now, and
yeah,
they've gone through some rough patches. Was it the Euros or I can't remember the last World Cup where they just? I think it was the last World. No, it wasn't the last one. They crashed. They just
yeah,
they did a Belgium. They imploded. They didn't get out of the groups. I think it was a Euros. So they have the potential to do that, but not this year, man. They are looking like
yeah.
so good. Like they're looking
I
like a
remember them.
team.
Sheesh, at the 2010 World Cup specifically, I remember they had that huge like political thing when the
That
players
was
like
good. I
revolted
think that was
against the
yeah,
manager.
yeah, yeah,
And Nelka, I think, was part of that and was like, "Stuff you
yeah,
guys, I'm going
yeah.
home." Like that was crazy.
And it's in their blood, French Revolution.
Yeah,
It's something that they
yeah,
do. But man, they are look. That's why I'm like they're looking strong. I think I think they'll go all the way. I think we'll get an Argentina-Brazil semi-final, and I think we'll get a France-Portugal semi-final. And people lied to me. They kept saying that we could never potentially get an Argentina-Portugal final. But if you look at all the brackets, like it's still possible. Like Argentina's on the one side, Portugal's on the other side. So, I mean, the romantic in me would love to see that. I still would love to see Argentina-Portugal final. And I don't care who wins, Messi or Ronaldo wins. I would be stoked either way, like just for them. But I don't see Portugal getting through all the way. What are you thinking? Are you changing your mind?
I think it's going to be a Brazil on those brackets. I'd say probably Brazil,
England,
France.
I think France are beating England.
I do think so. But like I said, it's like World Cup football. It's knockout stages. Like anything can happen, you know.
It's true.
They could just make a like absolutely crazy mistake, or the team just doesn't show up on the day. Like who knows? It's like knockout football isn't. It's like a whole other beast, you know. And like I think you obviously the better players you have, it just gives you the higher chance of winning, but you never guarantee anything. So who knows, dude? Who knows? I think I think any of those teams that are left could realistically lay a claim to be worthy winners. So
for sure.
I don't know.
Dude, do you know what's the worst thing ever?
Tell me.
So yourself and myself, we're both involved in the church world. We both worked for churches, right? And bless their heart, my church has decided to do a carol service on Sunday, the 18th of December.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, during the World Cup final. And I'm on the team for the music. So
dumbest decision I've ever heard, dude. Like I specifically I remember at the 2010 World Cup, also was a Sunday night. And even now, this one, they just do a screening of the final, bro. It's like lean into culture.
Come together and watch,
Yeah. So no, I think you need to have a word. You need to have a word, dude. So
according to the Bible, I'm getting a bigger house than you, so we're good.
As much as you want to be kind of cultural, you got to pick your moments, I guess. Like
yeah, for sure.
No, that's interesting. Well, geez, dude, what are you gonna do? Just
I'm gonna like block my ears, run out of the room, go straight home and watch the replay and pray and hope. I'm gonna turn my cell phone off and pray and hope that I don't hear anything before I get back. That's my goal, but probably won't happen.
Oh, dude, I mean, completely off topic, especially for this podcast, but it's just a 2-minute story, which is so funny. Have you seen? I don't know if you ever follow like my friends and I, we always watch the Super Bowl. We don't watch any other American football. We just watch the Super Bowl, and we all just pick a team who's good. We don't know anything about them, but there's guys in America that legitimately will do. It's almost like becomes a game. So it's almost like a game every year to see who can last the longest without finding out the Super Bowl score.
Oh, amazing!
So like guys will go to like ridiculous lengths, like legitimately like. Guys will wear like blinkered glasses. They don't like see newspapers or headlines, or like they like won't check the emails. They'll get people to check the emails for them for like as long as they possibly can. But then people who know that these guys are doing it will try to sabotage them in like ever increasingly like clever ways. It's just such a funny thing to read articles about these guys who it's just like it's like a side sport of like trying to not find out the score. So.
That's great. I need to do that.
You don't have to wait weeks and weeks. You just got like an hour to try and like not find out the score.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're coming to the end of it. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we call it quits for today?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Cool. We've got a lot to look forward to. We've got a lot of games to look forward to. I think probably the next time we chat will probably be, when is the final? The 18th, you say, hey? So we will chat again before the final. We'll do some predictions for that final, and maybe talk about what's been happening and what we can expect to see, and maybe we should do like a goal scorer prediction, final score prediction. We'll see what we can do, but it'll be fun. You guys, anyone who's listening or watching on any of the platforms, want to send through what you think happens, send through some predictions of your own. We'll read them out live in our next show. And then we'll see who wins. And maybe if one of you guys gets it right and we don't, we'll send you a signed shirt. And I don't have a player I'll just take one out of my cupboard
Just a
and
t-shirt.
just find one of my own shirts for you, and then we'll send it to you. So what a treat!
Yeah.
Hey?
Great. Nick is a very big man, so that it'll be like a
God
dressing gown on any mortal.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you again. Thanks for joining us. If you've joined us online on Twitter, if you've watched live, or if you are going to be listening to this as a podcast, you can find us anywhere that good material is displayed. So we'll be on YouTube, we'll be on Twitter, and this will go up, as I said, on our podcast channel at the King's Road. You can look for us on any of the platforms that you happen to listen on. And yeah, we'll look forward to hearing more from you. If you ever are watching live, feel free to drop some comments in the chat, and we'll answer your comments or your questions live in the video itself. But Sean, best of luck for the week ahead, and we'll get to see some good football.
Yeah,
and we're inching ever closer to club football back again. So who knows?
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah. All right. All the best for the rest of your week, mate, and we'll chat again soon.
You too, bro. Up the Dutch. Cheers, bro.